On Overdrive today, we take you along for a ride on the BMW S1000RR in its 4th generation. Check out the electric Volvo C40 Recharge and a more powerful Mercedes-Benz EQB 350. Hello and welcome to Overdrive. I am Soini Dutt. A super bike with superior engineering, advanced technology, new electronics and of course more power. I'm talking about the BMW S1000RR, now in its 4th generation. Rohit got a chance to ride this motorcycle an entire day in the hills. Here's what he has to say about it.
Ever since its launch in 2008, the BMW S1000RR has been constantly updated, upgraded, evolved, etc. This is considered to be the updated version of the 4th generation of the S1000RR. Now in that generation, the S1000RR became more compact, but with the update, it's become more aggressive. You can see those wings. You can probably even see that visually it's a little taller. The angle, the geometry is a little different. All of that is coming from BMW's track learnings. They want to make it a more hardcore track tool. But in reality, at least in our country, with just 2.5 racetracks, most of these bikes are going to spend more time out here on the tarmac, on the public roads. So how does it behave out here in the urban wilderness? Let's find out.
The 2023 model comes with a more flexible chassis, more advanced electronics, revised rider geometry, better suspension, higher power, and a more aggressive design.
BMW has moved to a symmetrical front end, polarized a few buyers. But with the 2023 update, a bit of the asymmetry is back with those offset decals, and a bit of that radicalism is back with those wings on the side fairing.
These wings are inspired by the 2020 M1000RR, albeit not made in carbon fiber. You do get carbon fiber, however, for the heel plates and more importantly, in the wheels. While the rest of the motorcycle follows familiar design cues to its predecessor, the cast aluminium frame has been drilled in multiple areas to reduce weight and to increase flex. Geometry changes include a longer rake and trail, a lengthier wheelbase, and increased ride height.
This model features updated geometry as well, so that also gives it a slightly taller seat height. So if you have tried your friend's older 4th generation S1000RR, this one's going to feel slightly taller, especially because of the raised rear end. Even the seat on this thing is not the most comfortable, but we'll come to that in a bit. So if you're planning to get one of these, now test rides are hard to come by. Even the waiting period for this bike in India is slightly longish, but at least try and get to the showroom, perch yourself on the motorcycle and see if it works for you. Because this seat height may not be to everyone's taste.
Especially since the seat is broad. And here on the M Sport model, it is simply a thin sheet of foam which is ideal for the track but not the most comfortable for long distances. The increased ride height might not be the only thing you will notice if you were to ride the predecessor and the new S1000RR back to back. The advantages of the chassis level changes may be hard to come by unless you are a riding god who can push this bike to its limits. I'm not. But what's immediately noticeable is the improved agility of the motorcycle and how supple the new Marzocchi forks feel in comparison to the outgoing Sachs. These two feature electronically adjustable damping, and while they are better than the outgoing legs, the S1000RR still feels a bit firm even in its road setting. The dynamic mode dials up the stiffness so much that the bike becomes unrideable in our conditions, always bobbing over undulations and making the rider feel like a jockey, floating a few millimeters above the seat at all times. But once you figure out the right settings for your favorite road, the S1000RR is a hoot to ride.
The engine revs to about 15,000 RPM, and while that may sound quite peaky for a lot of people, the tractability in the city is actually quite good. In fact, the tractability around slow corners is also quite nice. And when it comes to long sweeping corners, there's again a lot of confidence that the motorcycle offers. What contributes to that is a longer wheelbase that the new S1000RR now sits on. They've also made holes in the chassis to give it better flex. Now on paper, if you look at the specs, the steering geometry might seem a little lazy. However, the carbon wheels also make for very fast turn-ins. Of course, it's still not as razor sharp as a Ducati Panigale, but the steering feels a lot more neutral, which means that it will appeal to a broader range of riders with different levels of skill.
Even the brakes are more confident than before. The The Nissan calipers are a welcome change from the many Brembo brakes that we've been sampling lately on many European and Japanese motorcycles.
These Nissan calipers come from the previous generation M1000RR, and it feels way more confident than the Hayes calipers that we've seen on the previous S1000RR. Now, since we are on the topic of braking, you also get precise control or multi-level selection for the engine brake control.
The engine brake control will play with the throttle maps and the butterfly valves to fine-tune the deceleration offered by the powertrain. That precision can help reduce nosedive. The bike will shave speed rapidly if required and yet glide smoothly through the corners without pitching or upsetting its form. And that sublime feeling imparts confidence.
So if you're old enough to know what I mean, this one stings like a beamer and floats like one too.
Speaking of the sting, the engine is uprated to 210 PS, which is only 2 PS shy of the M1000RR. Needless to say, the power comes nice and strong throughout the rev range, and you will never find yourself complaining about the lack of it on the road or maybe even the track. The power also seems manageable for most of the rev range, but once you ride past the mid-range and closer to the red line, all hell breaks loose and the rider god in you needs to be summoned. 12,000 to 15,000 RPM is the savage territory, where the S1000RR's gentlemanly mannerisms end and the animal comes out. And if you are a riding god that can tame that kind of power without the need of electronic aids, then there is a new Easter egg for you: slide control. The new S1000RR will let you slide into the corner like a WSBK or a MotoGP guru to target those final milliseconds on a lap record. But I call it an Easter egg because the only way to activate it is by letting go of the traction control system. You need to have the skill to control 210 German horses with the traction control set to its lowest setting in order to activate slide control. And that level of skill or bravery isn't everyone's cup of tea. Therefore, the biggest advancement of the 2023 S1000RR is one that many may not be able to use. And yet, if I had to buy an S1000RR today, it would be the 2023 model. I would buy the top of the line M Sport model in a heartbeat, because you see, it seems like 95% of the M1000RR at almost half the price. And that is a steal in my books.
I'm going to sum this up in a rather simple way. You already know it's a fast motorcycle. It has all the electronics and equipment that you want on a premium liter class motorcycle of 2023. So in terms of value, I think it offers tremendous value for the kind of asking price that it has. But the thought I want to leave you with: if you were to pick up a powerful liter class super sport machine a couple of decades ago, go fast on it on a road like this or maybe on a racetrack, the thought that you would have in your mind is, I'm so glad I survived the day and lived to tell the tale. You would expect that in today's times, a 200 PS motorcycle like this would make that thought even wilder, right? But the kind of thought it leaves you with is, was I going fast or was it the motorcycle doing everything? Depending on how you translate that last line, you will know whether the new S1000RR is for you or not.
And in the superbike world, the S1000RR has some healthy competition coming in from the Ducati Panigale V4S, the Aprilia RS V4 1100 factory, the Honda CBR 1000RR Fireblade, the Yamaha R1, and also the Kawasaki ZX-10R. I hope I've got all those names right, and it would be an absolute treat to get all of these motorcycles on one racetrack. That, of course, is wishful thinking from my end, but why not, right? We'll take a very quick break here on the show, but coming up on the other side, we'll tell you all about the Volvo C40 Recharge. Stay tuned, you're watching Overdrive.